We go to cancerchecklabs.com. That's our website. You can buy the test directly on the website. Kit will be drop shipped to you. Everything you need is in the kit. The tubes to pull your blood, the cooling engine to preserve it in transport, a prepaid overnight FedEx label. They'll overnight it to our lab in Medical District in Dallas. In order to get the blood draw, there's three options. Option one is we have partnerships with 4,000 phlebotomists across the country. They'll come to your doorstep. They'll pull your blood. They'll pack up the kit. The second option is you can go to an any lab test now. They have 230 locations across the country. And you can walk in, they'll pull your blood, and they will take the kit. They will FedEx it to us. And option three, you can obviously go to your practitioner and have them draw your blood.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and self. Joining me today is Sumit Rai, the owner of Cancer Check Labs, a company whose mission is to make a meaningful difference in people's lives through early cancer detection. Sumit is an incredible man that has dedicated his life to fighting cancer. Excited to have him on the show today and discuss how his last 15 years of development has come together under Cancer Check Labs. Thank you for joining me today, Sumit.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're doing something very important in the world. You're allowing people to catch something that it can be, personally, I understand how detrimental it is to somebody's life. And you're allowing them to find this much earlier so that they can make drastic changes to ensure that they keep on living, right? So can you give us a little background of yourself in the cancer industry, what you've done? You've mentioned some amazing accolades before we started here. I'd love for you to emphasize those again, and then how that all came together for Cancer Check.
Yeah, so cancer is really my second career. My first career was in venture capital as a tech entrepreneur in Silicon Valley and built and sold a company. And then, unfortunately, 3 months after that, in 2010, my only sibling, my younger sister, got diagnosed with cancer, and a year and a half later passed away. And that's really what got me into cancer 15 years ago. And so at the time, I started with a very minimal knowledge of cancer. And for the last 15 years, have been obsessed about learning everything I possibly can about cancer. And so alongside that, started two nonprofits that we were talking about earlier. One of them is called Cure Sonia. That's a 501c3. And that one, we fund cancer research at Stanford, MD Anderson, USC, City with Hope. We do financial assistance for underprivileged families that can't pay for their cancer care. We're the largest registrars of bone marrow donors in the world. I've registered over 10,000 people in 300 drives across 60 cities. I was nominated for the National Board of Leukemia Lymphoma Society, LLS, for my contributions to combating cancer. And I've been nominated for 100 PhDs in cancer biology. Started my second nonprofit actually last year, another 501c3 called Save a Firefighter. And in that, we're raising funds to screen all the firefighters across the country for free because unfortunately they have up to 3 times the incidence of cancer as the general population, given the hazardous exposure that they endure as first responders. And so just been very involved with cancer, professionally at the Cancer Check Labs, of course, which we'll talk about. And also just been involved, philanthropically as well in my personal life. So really just consume all of life.
Wow, and consumption is definitely a great word for it. Sorry to hear about the background story, but to hear your strength, your energy as an entrepreneur, and your dedication to really understand how you not only to understand the field itself, but how to help people within the field and creating, again, multiple 501c3s and then creating new programs like that for the firefighters. That's been a huge factor. I have a lot of friends that are firefighters. Is one of their fears as they're younger getting into it. It's like, hey, this is a big deal. Talk about how that all came into Cancer Check Labs. You told me that there was 15 years in development for this business itself. So was this always the idea off the start of this, and how did it come together?
Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the content. Just want to take a quick intermission to address the business owners watching this right now. I have been in the marketing industry for over a decade, and I have found that there is two major things that I am trying to help the world understand. One, there's a common denominator to success. Every successful business has the same foundational structure built out, and we'd love to be able to support understanding what that foundation is. And two, 90% of marketing agencies screw you over for one clear identifier, and that is data. Only 3% of consumers are ready to purchase today. The other 97% are being nurtured by your advertising dollars and advertising spend. We created Kaizen Marketing Agency to give you ownership of not only the customers that you're getting through your front door, but also the ownership of your data and understanding what actually grows your business and giving you the control to be able to grow it. My goal personally is to be one of the best marketers in the world. And the only way to do that is to help as many businesses as I possibly can actually grow their company. Not just sell Facebook ads or Google ads, but put a service together that gives you ownership and growth. So I hope you enjoy this content. If you're loving it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you really want to know more about how to grow your company and you want a free audit and game plan, we'll hand you the keys to the kingdom of how to be successful. Click the link below. We'll do a 15-minute audit. First 10 minutes, we'll really break down your business. Last 5 minutes, we'll show you those common denominators that you need to be successful for your company and how to implement it into your business.
The technology development started 15 years ago that underpins the test. And what it is really is that if you have a solid tumor, and a solid tumor means an organ tumor, lung cancer, prostate, breast, colorectal, ovarian, uterine, cervical, gastric, esophageal, thyroid, adrenal, brain, skin, all the organ tumors, from which 100 million people a year suffer across the globe annually. The primary tumor itself, the lump, generally does not kill you. What kills you is the tumor sheds tumor cells that circulate through your bloodstream. Those are known as circulating tumor cells, or CTCs, the acronym for short. And the CTCs, the circulating tumor cells, spread the cancer in your body in a process known as metastasis. And the metastatic effects, unfortunately, endanger other organs, make them biologically dysfunctional. They shut down and you die. That's typically how you die from cancer. You don't die from this lump. And so where this all began was an idea that essentially, if you could filter out these CTCs from the bloodstream, that are the drivers of this spread, which is the cause of mortality, then you could slow down and inhibit the progression of metastatic cancer and thereby potentially extend life. And so we started by building these very large scale filters to extract circulating tumor cells from whole blood. And people have tried to extract CTCs from whole blood and have done so for the past 30 years. There's about a dozen technologies in the world that can do it today. The problem is those technologies are very limited in the sample of blood that they can handle. They can handle 0.5 milliliter of blood to 9 milliliters of blood, which on the high end is about 2 teaspoons, 9 ml. The human body is 5,000 milliliters of blood. So that's great for research, but that relegates you to the research realm. That is insufficient sample size to break into the clinical and commercial realm. So over the last 15 years, we invested, about $80 million into building a proprietary filter that can process over 10,000 milliliters of blood to extract CTCs. Now, that is a 1000x 3 order of magnitude disruptive breakthrough in cancer. It has profound implications because it gives rise to previously inconceivable diagnostic and therapeutic applications. For example, the presence or absence of CTCs in your blood is indicative of cancer. If you do not have an underlying tumor, there should not be something shooting off tumor cells into your bloodstream. They need to come from somewhere. You need a source, an origin. They don't spontaneously appear. They're not part of healthy blood composition. So as a result, if you could take a statistically significant sample of blood, which in this case is 40 ml, not 4, and you could detect the presence or absence of CTCs in that sample, you could screen the entire population for cancer. And that is the test that we just released at Cancer Check Labs last year. And so all tumors now must shed to spread. You cannot go, and tumors are staged by progression, stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you cannot go from basically stage 0 to stage 1, or 1 to 2, or 2 to 3, or 3 to 4 without spreading. That's how it's measured. It's metastatic function. How far has that tumor gone along your body? And so tumors begin shedding at stage 0, and they begin shedding in the millions and millions of cells. 1 gram of breast cancer mass, which is nothing. 1 gram is not even palpable. You cannot feel it. 1 gram is not biopsiable typically. They will miss or not procure enough tissue. And if you can't biopsy, you can't diagnose. So 1 gram alone, which is not palpable, not biopsiable, not diagnosable, kicks up to about 3.2 million CTCs a day into your body. So there are millions and millions of these cells floating around if you can grab a blood sample, extract them, and identify them as we do, and we can. And that is a mechanism by which you can detect cancer very early because it is a universal mechanism across all solid tumors. They all shed in order to spread, basic function of metastasis. And one way that people can think about this to make it a little bit easier to understand, it's not so scientific, is, we are living biological organisms. As living biological organisms, we constantly have cellular turnover. Old cells die, new cells are formed. Old cells die, new cells are formed. This goes on as long as we're alive. Now, unfortunately, in making billions and trillions of replications, eventually your body makes mistakes and it creates these mutated precancerous cells. Fortunately, your immune system, your white blood cells, macrophages, recognize them and destroy them. And that's why everyone in the world is not dead from cancer. Unfortunately, once in a while, your immune system either fails to destroy it or that tumor cell evades the immune system. Okay, when that happens, that precancerous mutated cell gets a chance to multiply and grow, and a tumor is born. And that's when a tumor is born. That is basically a mutant alien civilization, literally, inside your body. Now, that civilization wants to do what most civilizations want to do: expand and take more territory. So they send their soldiers out to sea, their Vikings. And that sea is your bloodstream. And those Vikings go through that sea, that bloodstream, looking for more land to raid, pillage, and plunder, to go conquer and set up camp. And that land, that territory, are your other organs. And when it sets up those camps and those other organs, those are metastases, secondary and tertiary tumors, or metastatic tumors. So this function of this expansion of this base civilization as it's occurring requires all these little Vikings, these CTCs, to be out at sea. And what we do is we capture them in that blood sample. We filter those cells out. We take them out whole and intact. We put them on glass slides, just like tissue. We stain it just like tissue because it is cellular tissue. We hand it to a pathologist, that's a physician trained to look at tissue biopsies, to examine the tissue and tell us, render a result of, is this or is this not a tumor cell? Now, what's interesting about that is because we are looking at actual cells, whole, intact, complete cells, the accuracy of the test is very high. Tumor cells look very different than healthy cells. They're typically much larger, 35, 40 microns instead of 8 or 10. They are typically multi-headed. They're mutants. They're multiple nuclei, 5, 6 nuclei instead of 1 or 2. They have high, what's known as an NC ratio, nuclear cytoplasmic ratio, which basically means because it's so nucleated, the nuclei take up like 85% of the cell instead of 15. They're hyperchromatic alongside that. They have way too much DNA in them. These features are so pronounced that my 7-year-old daughter could look at that and tell you it's weird. A board certified pathologist that spends his entire life learning how to look at these cells and examine these tissues is highly, highly, highly unlikely to ever mistake a tumor cell for a healthy cell. I mean, you're comparing an elephant and a rabbit. They're just very, very different. So that's what the test does. And you know, the reason that it picks up all solid tumors, which gives us this pan spectrum action, broad spectrum action, pan cancer, is again because all tumors shed to spread to expand the civilization.
Summit masterclass. And thank you for putting that in layman's terms for people that like myself who could not understand the actual structure for it. But the one thing I want to really bring, especially for the entrepreneurs, business owners listening to this right now, right? Listen to his dedication to this craft. He said he just started this process 15 years ago through something tragic that happened to him. But his explanation of something that is, and I've known about cancer my entire life. I didn't know all that, right? And then in the 5 minutes that you just said, that introduction, you're able to break down, as well, most business people will call an elevator pitch, but clearly break down, this is why I created my business. This is the problem in the market. This is the hole that's not being serviced. And this is the cataclysmic effects that will be caused from my research, my development, and my tool that will allow for greater civilization, greater society, greater lifespan of the people using it, which is, and from tip to toe, something extremely, extremely powerful. Yeah, you've kind of broken down now. Obviously, we know the consumer base that you're going after. We see the goal of the business. You launched this company about a year ago now. Where are you guys today? Where are you guys in the process of fighting cancer, specifically for Cancer Check Labs?
So the test is federally regulated. We got our federal registrations in the end of December 2023. We spent the next 6 months building a brand new lab and medical district in Dallas, Texas. We opened that lab about a year ago last year. And so the test is now available. There are 6 states that have state licenses in addition to federal. Those are California, New Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island. We have all 5. It's available. The last one is New York. So today, and that one, we have our final steps at the end of this month. So we're hoping to have it by next month. But today we're available in 47 of 48 continental United States. We don't do Alaska and Hawaii. We are also expanding internationally. We've already opened up Canada. We are looking at the Middle East, Europe, even parts of Australia, Asia, to expand pretty rapidly. I mean, look, if you can detect stage 0 cancer on a blood draw, as we can and we have, survival is 99%. you are talking about practically eradicating mortality from cancer. And that is absolutely huge. Cancer is overtaking heart disease as the number one cause of mortality. In fact, it already has in most high income developed countries. That data and that inflection point came out of the Lancet in 2019. And so last year alone, to put this in perspective, there were 10 million recorded deaths in cancer. And obviously, there are more unrecorded. But at 10 million recorded deaths a year, not even accounting for population growth or the incidence of cancer rising in the younger population, over 100 years, that's 10 million times 100. That's 1 billion lives lost, double-digit percentages of global population. There are not many things on the planet that actively threaten double-digit percentages of global population. If you can capture stage 0 cancer on a blood draw, where survival is 99%, you are talking about almost eradicating that mortality. You're talking about saving nearly 1 billion lives. And to put that in perspective, what is 1 billion lives? If you were to add up all the casualties and all the fatalities of all known wars in human history, the total is about 350 million. You're talking about an impact that's 3 times of that in just a century. And so it has massive effects on the world, and their downstream effects, obviously, with the population.
Summit, not only is your mission powerful in the sense of development of humanity, but as you said, this is one of the most deadliest things that we know in today's common era of medicine. And you are attacking it head on with a strong knowledge, a strong understanding, and a position that I don't think it's used in the sense of making sure we have enough data so that we can clearly assess and help people before it becomes a massive problem. You're looking to solve the initial problem instead of just put a band-aid over it, which I wholeheartedly approve on. Pivot a little bit more into you, some because your knowledge base is extensive. You have a clear understanding of what you're going, and your passion to attack the cancer industry is very, very palpable, and it's incredible to hear. Can you give us a story in these last 15 years of running your business of you as an entrepreneur that gave you the energy to keep going, that gave you the motivation to keep fighting this fight? Anything that guided you to give you that passion to know that you're doing the right thing, you're staying on the right track, and that you want to put the energy towards this each and every day?
I mean, first off, I hate cancer. It took something very precious from me, my little sister. She was my only sibling. She was about 9 years younger than me. It's like a pseudo daughter when you have that kind of age gap. It's less of a peer relationship at that point. And so, I absolutely hate cancer. I want to wipe it off the face of this planet and just start there. Above and beyond that, I made a promise to her that I would do my best to fight it and look for a cure or way to solve this problem. And so I want to honor that promise. It's very important to me. But being an entrepreneur, going at a journey for 15 years is tough. There's a lot of volatility. It's a roller coaster ride. You have to be able to fund the business. You have to be able to build a team. You have to have all the right talent. You got to go through all the regulatory hurdles. You have to make the appropriate pivots at the appropriate time as you learn things and regulations change and strategy has to evolve as a result of that. So, by no means will I say it's easy, but if you have the resilience and you're willing to go through that, the reward at the end is just astronomical. And I don't mean financially, while that accompanies it. I think what a lot of entrepreneurs should think about is really it's about creating impact. And when you create impact, you will generate value. And when you generate value, money will be a side effect. And so just find something that you find to be very impactful, that you're very passionate and driven about, that you will follow through all the way to the finish line without quitting. And that's really what.
Money will be the side effect. I love that. I love that. But the passion definitely shines through. Thank you, Simon. The last question I have for you. Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% improvement every single day. Us as entrepreneurs, we have to find a way to constantly improve ourselves or take small steps towards a larger goal. What do you do, Simon, in your personal life to embody that idea of Kaizen, where you're constantly trying to find improvement? Is it through your own research studies? Is it talking to the right individuals? Is it pulling the right information from online, such as YouTube and podcasts? Where are you going to constantly find your 1%?
It's interesting. Our test is a cash pay test. It's not reimbursed by insurance yet. And so as a cash pay test, we are very heavily in the longevity medicine, anti-aging, functional medicine, integrated medicine markets. And having been thrown headfirst into those markets the last couple of years, because that's where our customers largely are, I've actually learned a tremendous amount about functional medicine. And so what I really like to focus on with the philosophy of Kaizen is continuous improvement and continuous optimization. And there's obviously these trends in fitness today with various devices and gadgets that measure all kinds of biometrics so people can track them and solely optimize them. I think, the world of functional medicine, preventative medicine, anti-aging, whether it's the right supplements, whether it's peptides, whether it's eating habits, whether it's fasting, adding those types of things into your routine at a pace that you can absorb and maintain so that you are consistent is the way that I would think about, you know, approaching something Kaizen like.
I love that. That is a great answer. Summit, you're awesome, and your passion, your energy shines through in this, and the fight that you're fighting is definitely the good fight. Thank you so much for your time. If someone was listening to this and they're like, "Man, I would love to get, a type of screening and understand a little bit more and be able to purchase this product," where would they find more information about you?
They should go to cancerchecklabs.com. That's our website. You can buy the test directly on the website. Kit will be drop shipped to you. Everything you need is in the kit. The tubes to pull your blood, the cooling engine to preserve it in transport, a prepaid overnight FedEx label. They'll overnight it to our lab in Medical District in Dallas. In order to get the blood draw, there's 3 options. Option 1 is we have partnerships with 4,000 phlebotomists across the country. They'll come to your doorstep. They'll pull your blood. They'll pack up the kit. They'll take it with them. They'll drop it off at FedEx. It's all white glove. The second option is you can go to any lab test now. They have 230 locations across the country. And you can walk in, they'll pull your blood, and they will take the kit. They will FedEx it to us. And option 3, you can obviously go to your practitioner and have them draw your blood. But you'll find it at cancerchecklabs.com if you want to get screened. And you can also follow us on Instagram at the same handle, Cancer Check Labs.
And all that information is going to be found below in the description. Sumit Rai, thank you so much for your time here. You're doing the absolutely incredible for humanity and the hope for betterment for your business as well as everyone that you're working with. If you guys have finished this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next Kaizen podcast.